Right. So I started my career as a teacher, working with high school students, and I enjoyed every minute of it. But should I wait? Nivedita, is there some problem?
I'm sorry. No, Sunita, please go ahead. Please continue.
Yeah, okay, right. So I started as a teacher and I enjoyed every minute of it. However, I realized after 10 years of teaching that what I was doing as a teacher, content-based teaching was not enough. And I needed to move on to skill-based training. Why, you may ask? Because of the internet. Technology has created such an explosion of information that it's impossible for anyone to master all of it. However, we do need to help our learners to access this information, to analyze and evaluate it, to organize it, and to be able to apply it, which is why we need to shift to skill-based training to help them to learn skills like critical and creative thinking, communication, and collaboration. So a few years back, I did a master's degree in educational technology, and currently my interest is in the research done by cognitive psychologists about how the brain learns and how technology can support and enhance this learning. So today I'd like to share with you my ideas about why as trainers we need to use mind maps as a thinking tool. But before we begin, I'd like to ask you a question. As experienced trainers, what are some of the challenges that you have faced when delivering a training program? Either during the training program, before the training program, or after the training program. Could you please unmute and share some of your responses?
Having a sequence of contents to be delivered.
Okay, all right. That's one challenge. Anyone else? Anyone else?
At times, Sunita, at times the audience, I mean the participants are not responsive when we throw a question at them.
Okay, all right. Can I have one more, please?
Sunita, for me, the challenge is when I take lengthier sessions to remember what all I have to cover and how to remember what to cover.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so we have got, there are multiple challenges that we face as trainers. So I would like to submit to you that you can deal with these challenges effectively if you use mind maps as a thinking tool for training, right? So let's just first have a look at what is a mind map. Let's do that first. So this is a very simple picture of a mind map. Essentially, in the you have a central focus where you put your main topic or concept. Then around that center, you have branches radiating outwards, and these branches will represent the ideas related to your topic. And then from each branch, you will have additional smaller branches that will represent further associations or details, right? Now that you've looked at a simple picture, let's look at a mind map which has text in it. Now, this is a mind map about mind mapping. So as you can see, our topic is mind mapping. It's in the center. Generally, the center is always a circular shape. The branches are labeled with keywords that represent related ideas. So in this case, mind maps help with planning, creativity, productivity, and collaboration. It's very important that in a mind map, you use single words, keywords, okay? And then from each branch, you have smaller branches radiating outwards with additional details. So for example, in planning, you could add, it helps you with planning projects, goals, strategies. With collaboration, definitely, it helps you to work with a team, share ideas with your colleagues, right? So the essential elements in a mind map are the central focus, the main topic, the branches radiating outwards in different levels. The first level of branches, then the second level of branches, Please note that you used curved lines, you use color, you can use images, emoticons, small little stick drawings, okay? And the whole thing provides you an overview of what you are planning or trying to organize, the information that you're trying to organize. These are the essential elements of a mind map. Now, along with this, let me give you a little bit of research that backs why mind maps are so popular. They were actually introduced in the 1970s by a British psychologist called Tony Buzan. Okay, it had been used earlier by people like Leonardo da Vinci and even by the Greeks, but he was the one who popularized it, and he based his work on research by cognitive psychologists and neuroscientists. Now, at the same time, when he introduced mind maps, there was another researcher known as Dr. Roger Perry, who also supported this idea that mind maps are a brain compatible way of thinking. Now, why is it brain compatible? According to Roger Perry, the cerebral cortex of our brain, that is the thinking part of our brain, is divided into two hemispheres, the left and the right hemisphere. The left side deals with logical analytical skills and the right side deals with creative language skills. Now, when you are mind mapping, you are using both the hemispheres, the left and the right hemisphere of the cerebral cortex. Because mind maps are logical, they help you organize, they help you plan. Mind maps are also creative because you're drawing a picture, you're using color, you're using images. And when you use both the hemispheres of the cerebral cortex, it's challenging, it's engaging for the brain. It's a pleasurable activity for the brain. So this is why he called it a brain compatible way of thinking. Additional research was done by Dr. Ralph Haber, who said that, when it comes to accuracy for recognizing images, our accuracy level for most people is almost 85 to 90%, which is why you remember the scenes from a movie better than what you read in the newspaper today. I think all of us agree with that. And finally, that 65%, let's just test that out. I've taken the slide off screen. So could you share with me any of the ideas that I've just shared with you right now, just discussed? Just share with me words, anything you remember from what I have just discussed with you. Could you please unmute and could I have a few responses quickly? Words, phrases, anything you remember.
Productivity.
Creativity, yes. Another one, come, please, quickly.
Collaboration.
Collaboration, yes. Another one.
Benefits.
Sorry, imagination.
Benefits.
Sorry.
Mind compatibility.
Mind compatibility, okay, all right. Planning, okay. One more.
We remember the branches and sub-branches.
Okay, but not only
Collaboration.
Collaboration.
Emoticons, the diagrams, the pictures.
Okay, right. Let's stop there. Now, if you, what Dr. Sanjay said was quite right. You remembered more of the ideas from the left side, from the picture that I showed you, than you remembered from the right side. Nobody remembered even 85 to 95%, 65%, which are just numbers. Somebody said compatible, but the majority of you remembered ideas and concepts from the left side, from the picture that I showed you. So point made that mind maps are visual, and that helps us to recall them. Now, the second step that we need to consider is why mind maps are a thinking tool. Why are they considered a thinking tool? So let's take a look at a neuron, a brain cell. So a neuron has a nucleus. Around it, you can see branch-like structures known as dendrites. One of those branch-like structures is a little longer, like a tail. That's known as an axon. And at the end of the axon, again, you have smaller branch-like structures known as the brain. Electric rides through the axon to the synapses. And this happens in all neurons in the brain, right? Okay. Now, let's take a look at a brain map. Now, it's not hard to see that there is a similarity between the mind map visually and the brain cell. Yes, you have a central focus, the nucleus in the neuron and the circle in the mind map, and you have branches radiating outwards, right? But this is not the only similarity. It's not only visual, it's also functional. Okay. So just like in a neuron, every neuron in the brain is a starting point for multiple thousands of associations with other neurons. The possibilities are limitless. So likewise in a mind map, the center, the circle in the center of the mind map is the starting point of associations for multiple branches, multiple ideas, multiple associations that radiate outwards. So it is this radiant structure, this association which helps us to remember. And these associations are not random. There's a structure, just like in the mind map, there is a structure. There are the first level of branches, second level of branches. There's a structure, there's a hierarchy. Likewise in the brain, every neuron is associated with other neurons according to a certain pattern, according to a certain structure. And this is what helps us remember. That is why a mind map is actually a visual representation of how the brain actually thinks. Now that we have finished this part, we have identified what is a mind map. We have identified why a mind map is a thinking tool. I'd like now to present to you 3 ideas that support the idea that you should use mind maps as a thinking tool for training. So the first idea is to create meaningful learning. Now, you're looking at a matrix on your screen, okay? On the left side, we represent 3 kinds of learning: non-learning, rote learning, just memorizing, and meaningful learning. In the central column, we have a graphical representation of how knowledge may be organized in the brain. So the black dot represents, say, a major concept, and the gray dots, which are linked by lines to the black dot, represent related concepts that are remembered or learned. Okay. In the last column, you have again different graphical representation of what happens to the structure of knowledge when training is done. Now, when you're looking at the middle column, please don't get confused because the sections are different. In the brain, when you organize knowledge, you have a main concept and you have related concepts that are related to it in different ways. Now, let's look at the whole matrix. When you have a non-learning situation, obviously, there is no change in the knowledge structure in the brain before the intervention, before the training, or after the training. The knowledge structure in your brain, what you remember, what you know, remains the same, obviously. Now, when you have rote learning, when you're just memorizing things, what happens? You will accept certain new concepts which are represented by the green circles, and you will reject certain concepts which are represented by the red circles. Now, the green concepts which are accepted, the new concepts, are linked to the major concept by lines. So you are making some connection there, but they are not linked to the previous concepts that have been learned and are linked to the major concept. So the chances of you retaining those new concepts, of being able to apply those concepts, of being able to integrate those concepts are very slim, and with time you are likely to forget it. Now, the last level is meaningful learning. Now, what happens during meaningful learning? Again, you have the green dots which represent new concepts that are learned, and the red dots which represent concepts which are rejected. But if you look clearly at the last square on the bottom right, the new concepts which have been learned are not only linked to the major concept represented by the black dot, they are also linked and related to earlier concepts that have been learned. And so the chances of them being integrated, the chances of them being used for applications, the chances of them moving to your long-term memory are much, much higher. Now, just a second. Yeah. Now, how do mind maps fit into this scenario? Mind maps help to create this kind of meaningful learning, because when you mind map, you not only help your trainees, you not only help your learners to understand, to organize information, you also help them when they're creating the mind map, when they're creating the branches, and then they're making associations not only with the new ideas they've learned, but also with ideas that they have learned earlier. So in this way, mind maps help to engage learners by creating meaningful learning, not just about what they're learning in the present situation, but also by connecting it to what they have previously learned. This is the first idea. Now, what is the second reason? The second reason is the limbic brain, which creates emotional resonance. So let's explore this idea. Now, in the brain, you have got 3 levels. The first level is the brain stem, the reptilian brain, which looks after all our survival functions, our breathing, our heartbeat, the way our organs function. We really have no control over it. It takes care of itself. The second level is the limbic brain, which is responsible for our emotions and our memories. And the third level is the cerebral cortex, which we have spoken about before. It deals with all higher order thinking. Now, what happens when you are delivering a training program? When you are delivering a training program, you are appealing to the cerebral cortex, to this thinking brain. But the problem with the thinking brain is that it is constantly bombarded and constantly overloaded with all kinds of information. And when there is an overload, you will have learners who are disengaged, learners who are distracted, learners who are not interested. Now, how can we overcome this challenge? We can overcome this challenge by appealing to the limbic brain. If you create a sense of enjoyment, if you create a sense of fun, if you make something interesting and appealing to your learners, you're appealing to the limbic brain, and then you can be quite sure that your learners will be engaged. Now, how are we going to do that? We are still going to approach the limbic brain through the cerebral cortex. And how do we do that? By using mind maps. Now, when you use a mind map, like I said earlier, you are using both parts of the cerebral cortex. The left side, the cerebral cortex, by the way, is divided into the left and right hemisphere. The left side deals with logical and analytical skills, and the right side deals with creative and language skills. Now, when you are mind mapping, you are using both the left and the right hemisphere, okay? Because it's logical as well as it is creative. And when you use both the hemispheres of the cerebral cortex, you create a pleasurable experience for the brain, okay? It's an activity the brain enjoys. So you're creating a sense of motivation, you're creating a sense of interest. And in this way, you are appealing, you are creating emotional resonance by appealing to the limbic brain. And in this way, you can engage your learners and make sure that they are interested, that they are involved. And because they are emotionally involved, there is an emotional resonance, you can be assured that what you are delivering in your training is going to be long lasting. And finally, the third point I want to put before you is the forgetting curve. Now, in the 1880s, a German psychologist called Hermann Ebbinghaus introduced this concept of the forgetting curve. It has been widely quoted and referred to, and many people have acknowledged it in their research and their work about learning and remembering. Now, what does the forgetting curve tell us? It tells us that whenever you learn something new, you forget 50% of it within one day. Yes, excuse me. So you forget about 50% of it within one day. And over a period of 1 week, you would have forgotten almost 90% of what you have learned for the first time. But he also introduced the idea that if you review what you have learned at spaced intervals over a period of time, you can reduce the dip in the forgetting curve and improve your chances of remembering what you have learned. He suggested that we should review what we have learned more frequently, maybe after 24 hours, and maybe after 3 or 4 days, then maybe after a week, and then a month. Now, I'd like to explain this further to you by showing you this graph. It's available on a website called Work Learning Research Incorporated, and it's explained very nicely by Dr. Will Thalheimer specifically in relation to training. So there are 4 graphs. We start at the top left and end at the bottom right. And in each of the 4 graphs are divided into 2 parts, during training and after training. So in the first scenario, both the learning curve and the forgetting curve are very minimal, because if learning is not successful and the learners are not engaged, they don't understand. So obviously they will not remember and they will not apply anything that they have learned. In the second scenario, on the top right, if training is successful, you have a significant learning curve. Learners are engaged, they understand what is being delivered. However, after training is over, there is also a significant dip in the forgetting curve dips significantly, almost to the point where it was before training started. That's because we have not helped our learners to remember what they have learned. We have not provided them any kind of support, okay? And we've not given them opportunities to apply what they've learned. In the third scenario, at the bottom left, you have a very successful training program where learners have been engaged, they have understood what has been told to them, and you have also taken the trouble to. So in such a case, if you notice that the forgetting curve has been dramatically minimized. However, there is still a little bit of a dip because learners have not had, although they remember, they've not had an opportunity to apply what they've learned. And the final graph at the bottom right is the ideal situation that all of us to aim for. What happens? We have a wonderful training program, learners are engaged, they understand, and this learning curve continues to go up because we provide them support to remember what has been done by using a tool like mind maps, and then we take it further by allowing them to use that same tool, mind mapping, as an opportunity to plan and strategize for the future. So the learning curve continues to go up. Okay, now maps help this kind of forget, not only to engage during learning, to remember what they've learned, but also to plan for the future, right? Now, we've gone through what is a mind map, why it is a thinking tool, and why you need to use this thinking tool to enhance your training or to make your training more impactful, more interesting, and to deliver better outcomes. I think the term they use is return on investment. Okay, so I would like you now to actually put this into practice to see for yourself whether it works, and it does work. I'd like you to actually mind map along with me. So I request all of you now to have a look at that blank sheet of paper in front of you. I hope you have a pencil in your hand. Please see that you use a blank sheet, not a line sheet, because otherwise it's counterproductive. Please, as we are going to mind map together, I'll take you through the process. As you are mind mapping individually on your blank sheet of paper, we will also mind map collectively. So as you are creating the different keywords, I will ask you, please unmute, and I would like you to share your keywords so that collectively we can pool our ideas and everybody can create their own mind map. So shall we begin? Are we ready? Right? Please unmute, keep your audio open so that you can respond as you're mind mapping. So let's go ahead. Let's start on the blank sheet of paper in front of you. Let's start with the center. Draw a circular shape, a circle, not a square, not a diamond. Draw a circular shape, and inside that circle, please write 1 or 2 keywords about the main topic for today. As you're doing that, could some of you share the keyword that you'd like to put in the center? Could I have some responses, please?
Mind mapping.
You could
Learning.
put mind map. What else could we put?
Meaning
Learning.
learning.
Thinking tool.
Yeah, you could learning. You could put learning. I wouldn't suggest
Creativity.
meaningful learning. Yeah, you could put creativity.
Thinking tool.
Thinking tool, right? Okay, you could use that.
Mnemonic aid.
Yes, you could use it as an aid. Okay, mnemonic aid. Very good. Okay, so you've got several responses for what you choose whatever is relevant for you. So put a keyword or 2 words, 2 keywords in the center. Now let's start by creating creating the branches to represent the related ideas that we discussed while we were talking about this central topic. Now a point to notice is that usually if we are right-handed, we tend to start creating the branches in a clockwise fashion from the top right hand. If you're left-handed, maybe you'll start from the left, but you are free to create the branches in whichever way you want. So let's start with creating the branches as you can see them on screen. Okay, make the branches a little thicker because these are the initial set of ideas that are related to your central topic. Could you give me some keywords as you're creating these branches, this first level of branches? Could you give me some keywords? Anyone that you would like? These are the related ideas connected to your main topic. Could anyone give me keywords related?
Persuasion, retention, engaging.
Okay, let's go slow on that. Okay, so you could have retention, persuasion, engaging. Okay, someone else? Anyone else, please? Could we have some more words?
Feedback.
Feedback, okay. Anything else?
Impact.
Impact, okay. All right.
Effectiveness.
Collaboration.
Collaboration, okay. All right. All right, so you've created, I presume, around 4 or 5 branches around that central idea, which are related ideas connected to your main topic for today, right? Now, I'd like you to take one of those branches and add 2 or 3 additional smaller branches, which would add details, additional details, or perhaps you could add associations of what you can connect it with, something that you learned earlier. So for example, if you are taking retention or engaging, can you give me any additional words? Please remember that you are using the keywords to label each of the branches. So you have labeled each of the main branches. Now take one of the main branches and add at least 2 or 3 smaller branches and label each of those smaller branches with some additional detail. Something more that you have learned, something that you remembered, something that you'd like to try out. So could some of you share some of the keywords that you're thinking about? Please mention the main branch first and then the additional, the keyword for the main branch and then the additional keyword, because otherwise we'll get confused. So go ahead. Anybody would like to try?
Main branch, if it is feedback, the smaller branch would be questionnaire.
Okay, for feedback, for if the main branch was feedback, we could add an additional branch for questionnaire. Somebody else? If somebody is speaking, I cannot hear you. Can someone else try, please? Can someone else try? Please try. I mean, there's no right and wrong. It's a matter of creating a mind map that represents what you remember. Could someone else try, please?
Smita, when I
Yes.
the main branch is collaboration.
Okay.
I see it as teamwork.
Okay.
I see it as friends, and I see it as a lot of activities.
Okay, fine. So if your main branch is
Or,
collaboration, you would add 3 additional branches for teamwork, friends, and activities. Fine. Could we have one more response, please?
Yeah, main branch is
Yeah.
effectiveness, and under
Okay.
that leadership. Yeah, if effectiveness as a main branch, and then
Okay.
through that personality, leadership, team building, teamwork. So all that
Okay.
comes under effectiveness.
Fine,
That's the main
fine.
branch I.
Okay, great. So I hope that all of you now have a mind map in front of you with the central topic in the middle, with branches, at least 4 or 5 branches radiating outwards with a keyword representing the main related ideas. And then for each main related idea, you should have at least 2 or 3 smaller branches that add details, either what you learned or something that you remembered, something more that you want to find out, whatever it is, right? At the end of this, I would like you to add one more branch that would actually detail how you're going to apply mind maps as a thinking tool. Because the way we have used mind maps today is to organize the information you've just listened to. It's also a support for you to remember what I've talked about. And you need to take it a step further to help your learners or to help your trainees use the mind map to decide how they're going to apply it in their at the workplace. So how they're going to apply it and create a change their routine, try a new strategy. So you need to add an extra branch for that, right? So this is, I'm just sharing with you the mind map I created when I was preparing this presentation. It is not the absolute mind map that you need, but it's the mind map I prepared that is relevant for you. Your mind map is relevant for your way of remembering and what is important to you. So I'm going to keep this on the screen for a few minutes, and I've almost come to the end of what I want to deliver today. So while I keep this on the screen, I request you to, if you have any doubts that you'd like to clarify, or you'd like to share any experience or add any additional idea, you're most welcome to do so. So kindly go ahead. I think we can have about 5 minutes for that. Yeah. Anyone? You could either, if you would like to clarify any doubt, ask any question, or you want to add an idea, please go ahead.
Sunita, I'd like to share.
Yeah.
Whenever I plan my sessions and I do something like not exactly what you've taught us, the mind map, but a very rudimentary type of a mind map, I like to add over there what examples I'm going to give.
Exactly.
Or what videos I have to show, or
Absolutely.
what concept I have to emphasize. So what I do is I have a way of just putting, in short, what video is to be
exactly.
played.
You use a short form, acronym, you could use a small image and emoticon, whatever it is.
And I'm not much of an artist, but I can draw a few shapes. That's all. I use those.
No, this is a very valid point you brought up, Nivedita. This is not about being an artist. This is about representing the way you think. And it's about enjoying the process. When you enjoy the process, you enhance your ability to learn, to organize, to participate. So it's not about being an artist. That's why I told you, if you notice, my lines also are not very straight. That's why we use curved lines, fluid lines. It can flow in any shape, right? You label them big, small, but generally you have to, these elements are important. You start with the center. Each branch represents a related idea, and each branch is always labeled with a single keyword. Keep it simple. It should be clear. It shouldn't be cluttered. And there should be space for you to move out. Now, if you notice, I have not included any images or emoticons simply because I used the full page and I was unable to scan it. It refused to scan because I did the drawing right till the end of the page. Computers have limitations. However, if you use mind mapping software, which is also available, mind mapping software allows you to add text, you can add images, you can add links, you can add pictures, you can add videos to each keyword that you are adding. So it becomes that, it's like a complete record of everything that's associated with that particular topic. Anybody else? Thanks, Nivedita. Is there anyone else who would like to share, add something, ask a question? Anyone?
Sunita, Malini here. Thank you for this interesting concept. And I think all of us as teachers should try and make use of this concept of mind mapping. I have a question for you. Now, when we talk about flow chart and bullet points and all that, when we teach our students as to how to make notes. So note making is an important fact that they have to reckon with, which they don't. So do you think that mind mapping idea would be more creative and therefore it would interest our students to a greater extent?
Yes, I think it would interest them more because when you're mind mapping, since it involves a little bit of creativity, a little bit of fun, you can create funny shapes, you can make drawings. So that element of fun may interest and engage them more than learning a skill like note making, which is also important. But you could also convince them that if mind mapping is the starting point, from mind mapping, you could also transfer information into notes. You can transfer information into an index. You can transfer information into a database. Mind maps are very flexible. They're used in academic settings, they're used in corporate settings, they're used in, creative sessions. So I think it is more, that's what I said, it is engaging because you have to use both a logical ability and a creative ability. So it's challenging from the brain. So the fact that you have to engage, the cerebral cortex has got, they call cortical skills. I've spoken about this before, I forget the exact words, but both the left and right hemisphere, the skills of the logical skills and the creative skills, together they're known as cortical skills. So when you use them together, the brain enjoys the challenge. The brain is more engaged, more involved, right? So probably, yes, I think students would enjoy this better because basically it's like creating your own stamp. Yeah, it can be, quirky, it could be funny, but the point is they're involved. There is an outcome. There is a record. Yeah, so I think that would be my answer, Manu.
I would just like to add,
yes, Manu.
Sunita, thank you very much for the session. For me, mind map is very helpful when I sort of take any topic. For example, if I have to summarize a chapter,
absolutely,
we just take the chapter, we take the different points that are there, go into the branches, and then we say, okay, this is a picture for you to visualize at the end of it. So because a picture can be remembered much more than all the words. So as the picture, if you can remember, you can summarize the entire chapter and remember at any point later. So that becomes a lot more easier for the students to actually remember their session.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Molly. That is a very relevant idea. I don't know if I am running short of time. I think I've already overshot the time. So I'd like to conclude with one small idea related to what Molly said. When you create a mind map, you're making a picture. Let me just sort of take this off the screen. Okay. Now, the one thing for you to remember is that when we learn something, what you're learning currently first goes through something called your working memory. And then it is processed and goes to other parts, your long-term memory, whatever it is. Now, in working memory, you can hold only 5 to 7 items, whether it's text, whether it's numbers, whatever it is. So if I gave you 7 words to remember, you could remember only 5 or 7 words at that time. However, if I gave you 7 mind maps to remember, what you can, the brain doesn't distinguish, the brain thinks of each item as one chunk. So whether you use one word or one picture, the brain thinks of it as one item. So mind maps are a very powerful tool for remembering, even when you're on the job, when you're learning, when you're making notes also, Malini. So if I were to tell students to remember 5 mind maps instead of 5 words, you'll be amazed at the amount of recall they have when they're studying 5 chapters of a book. Okay, so that's another very powerful reason which Molly sort of brought up, because she mentioned a book, why you can use mind maps. So yeah, I think I will conclude over here. I think I've given you enough to think about. I really feel very strongly that mind maps need to be used as a thinking tool for training. And if we make an effort to use them, we can not only plan better, we can deliver better, but we can ensure that our training is more impactful, more long lasting. And yes, you can get that return on investment that the corporate world talks about. Thank you very much.